Keanu Reeves steps into an upscale restaurant nestled in the heart of the city, his attire a stark contrast to the lavish surroundings, simple, slightly wrinkled clothes, as if he had just wrapped up an ordinary day. Moving discreetly, he selects a quiet table, clearly trying to go unnoticed, even as the dazzling glow of crystal chandeliers bathes the space in elegance. But before he can even place his order, a waitress strides over, her expression laced with disdain, posture stiff with arrogance. With a sharp tone dripping in sarcasm, she blurts out, "Are you sure you can afford to be here?" Loud enough for other patrons to overhear. What unfolds next? It doesn't just leave the entire restaurant in shock. It exposes a truth that flips everything upside down. But before we dive deeper into this story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And if you love stories like this, make sure to subscribe. We've got another incredible tale dropping tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. Now let's set the scene. Lumiere Restaurant wasn't just a dining spot. It was the pinnacle of sophistication in Beverly Hills. Situated on one of the city's most exclusive avenues, its grand windows offered a view of slow-cruising sports cars and neon-lit streets. Inside, every detail was meticulously designed to impress. People didn't just come here to eat, they came to be seen. Among the staff, Ashley was one of the most seasoned waitresses. She moved through the restaurant with a practiced grace, her polished uniform and neatly styled bun reinforcing an image of control and efficiency. To her, working at Lumiere wasn't just a job, it was a privilege. At least, that's how she saw it. But Ashley had another side, a pride so inflated it often crossed into arrogance. She had a habit of sizing up customers at a glance, mentally categorizing them based on their attire, demeanor, and overall appearance. Some people just don't belong here, she often thought. That's when the restaurant's glass doors swung open, and a man walked in. His jeans were worn, his shirt simple, and his jacket, though comfortable, lacked any sign of high-end branding. His presence was understated, almost invisible, as he calmly approached the reception desk. Keanu Reeves wasn't a man who needed to flaunt his wealth. Despite being one of Hollywood's biggest stars, his reserved nature was the complete opposite of the extravagance that defined Beverly Hills. And at this moment, he looked like just another ordinary customer. Ashley, busy discussing a VIP reservation with another staff member, spotted him out of the corner of her eye. Her conversation abruptly halted. She turned her full attention to him, eyes narrowing in subtle disapproval. He didn't fit the profile of Lumiere's elite clientele. Without masking her reaction, she tilted her head, giving him a slow once-over, her gaze lingering on his scuffed boots. "Good evening," she greeted him, her tone dry, a forced smile appearing, then vanishing just as quickly. "How can I help you?" Keanu, his tone polite yet calm, responded, "I'd like a table, please." Ashley's brow arched as if she had just heard something absurd. Her expression practically screamed, "You? Here?" Crossing her arms, she let her smile drop entirely. "Are you sure you're in the right place?" she asked, her voice dripping with skepticism. "This is a very exclusive restaurant." Keanu remained unfazed, still wearing that signature, easygoing smile. "Yes, this is the place," he affirmed. Ashley scoffed, shaking her head with a condescending laugh. "Okay, just a moment, I need to check something." Turning on her heel, she made her way to the reservation desk. With an exaggerated motion, she typed his name into the system, her fingers hitting the keys with unnecessary force. Nothing. Rolling her eyes, she exhaled loudly and strutted back to Keanu. "Well, as I suspected, you don't have a reservation," she announced, her voice oozing with sarcasm. "We do have a few tables open, but just so you know, this isn't exactly a casual dining spot." Still unfazed, Keanu nodded. "I'd still like to dine here." Ashley let out an exaggerated sigh, grabbing a menu with unnecessary force before motioning for him to follow. But instead of leading him to a well-lit, elegant space in the center of the restaurant, where chandeliers glowed in golden brilliance, she took him to the most isolated, dimly lit corner. A table shoved near the kitchen, where the sound of dishes clattering and the muffled chatter of the staff created an entirely different atmosphere from the rest of the restaurant. With zero effort to hide her intentions, she slammed the menu onto the table. "Here you go. This table should do," she announced, her tone sickly sweet. "I think you'll be comfortable here. It's more private." Keanu glanced at the table, then back at Ashley, his smile never wavering. "Thank you," he said, his voice as calm as ever. Ashley narrowed her eyes, arms crossed. Was he being sarcastic? Or was he truly this oblivious? "You're welcome," she replied, her voice laced with sarcasm. "Just so you know, we usually reserve this table for special cases. But since we're not fully booked tonight, I suppose you can have it." Before he could respond, she spun on her heels and walked off. From across the dining room, Ashley couldn't help but smirk. "Bet he won't last 5 minutes here," she muttered to herself, her voice low but loud enough for a nearby couple to overhear. "I give him until he opens the menu." But as Keanu calmly flipped through the menu, scanning the options at his own pace, something about his posture was intriguing. He wasn't fidgeting. He wasn't uneasy. He wasn't intimidated. He was just there, unbothered, serene. And that annoyed Ashley even more. She stormed back to his table, yanking out her notepad with an exaggerated flourish. "So," she said, her voice barely masking her irritation, "have you decided what you'd like? Or do you need a recommendation?" Keanu calmly pointed to one of the most expensive dishes on the menu. "I'd like to try this one." Ashley barely suppressed a laugh, covering her mouth as if she had just heard the most ridiculous joke. "Oh, of course, the filet de Rossini," she repeated mockingly. "Just to be clear, sir, you do realize that dish costs $350, right?" Keanu simply nodded, his expression unchanged. "Yes, it sounds wonderful." Ashley tilted her head, lips curling into a condescending smirk. "All right then, just so there are no misunderstandings later, I suggest you double-check the prices. We wouldn't want anyone to have unpleasant surprises." Keanu's calm expression remained unshaken. "I'm certain." And with that, Ashley let out a theatrical sigh, scribbling the order down as if she were doing him a huge favor. But what she didn't know, this night was about to take a turn that would leave everyone speechless. Finally, Ashley strutted back to Keanu's table, holding the bill in one hand as if it were a royal decree. With a dramatic flourish, she set it down in front of him and smirked. "Well, here you go. I hope everything was to your liking," she said, her voice laced with sarcasm. "And just to remind you, we do expect at least a 20% tip." Keanu took the bill, without even glancing at it. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a sleek black card, sliding it across the table without hesitation. Ashley barely contained her amusement. She snatched up the card, ready to prove her assumption that it would be declined. But as she turned to walk away, a sudden shift in the restaurant's atmosphere made her freeze. A voice from behind her cleared their throat. "Excuse me," the elderly man in the navy blue suit spoke, standing up. His tone was calm, but there was an unmistakable authority behind it. Ashley turned, raising an eyebrow. "Yes, sir? How can I help you?" The entire restaurant was now watching. The man smiled slightly. "I was just wondering if you were aware of who you've been treating so poorly this entire evening." Ashley scoffed. "Oh, I think I know exactly who he is. Just another. Keanu Reeves." The man said the name clearly, and the room seemed to hold its breath. Ashley blinked. "What?" The couple who had been whispering gasped. Other patrons murmured in shock. Even the manager, who had been watching from afar, suddenly looked alarmed. "Yes," the man continued, turning to Keanu with a nod of respect. "One of the most respected and kind-hearted actors in Hollywood. A man known not just for his talent, but for his generosity and humility." Ashley's face paled. Keanu, still calm, gave a slight chuckle and a shrug. "I just came for dinner," he said simply. The manager rushed forward, panic in his eyes. "Mr. Reeves, I am so terribly sorry for the treatment you received tonight. This is unacceptable. Ashley, we'll discuss your behavior in my office. Immediately." Ashley opened her mouth, but no words came out. Keanu, still unfazed, glanced at his bill, picked up a pen, and signed it. As he stood up, He looked at Ashley, whose arrogance had crumbled into stunned embarrassment. "Kindness goes a long way," he said softly. Then, with a slight smile, he turned and made his way toward the exit. The moment he left, the entire restaurant seemed to exhale. The murmurs grew louder, and Ashley stood frozen, staring at the spot where Keanu Reeves had just been. It was only when she picked up the receipt that she realized he had left a 100% tip and a simple note written at the bottom. "Be kind.